You are listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paweta, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Fred Cary. He's the founder and CEO of IdeaPros, and he's helping entrepreneurs to find their purpose and create their legacy. And I would love to speak to him today about entrepreneurship and how to succeed as an entrepreneur. Hi, Fred. It's great to have you on Ideas and Leaders.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate it, and it's great meeting you.
So let's start a little bit with your story. It is so inspiring. I know that you founded over 10 companies and you helped hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs. And how did your entrepreneurship journey started in the first place, and how did you get to where you are right now?
Yeah, and that, those are always interesting stories on how people started becoming entrepreneurs. For me, I always had the bug in me. I found this old classified ad from when I was 16 years old that I ran into on newspapers.com. And it basically said, I'm available 24/7, 7 days a week. I'll mow your lawn. I'll paint your fences. I'll wash your dishes. I'll take care of your kids. Just hire me. And so really, I had that spirit all along. But when I got out of high school and got into business, I was around 20 and working for a company. And 3 times I came up with ideas that I thought were really good. I went to the boss with my idea, and just, it wasn't my job. It was just, I was trying to make the company better. And each time they basically shut me down, that these are terrible ideas. And each time, a month or two later, the boss came out with the very same idea and implemented it and took credit for it. And after that happened the 3rd time, I was almost 21. I decided that was the last time I was going to work for anybody else. And that turned out to be true. And
you started your first business, right?
Yeah. Started my first business, and I went from taco chips to computer chips in my career. And so that first business was, I was around 22, 23. And then I started another 2 or 3 companies in my 20s, and then took 10 years as a lawyer, and then went right back into entrepreneurship, where I created another 7 companies.
Wow, it is so inspiring to listen to such stories. I think that many people looking at successful entrepreneurs, and they're thinking, he's an overnight success. Do you think that something like an overnight success is possible in business? Did you see such examples?
Yeah, overnight successes like Google, for example. I mean, it took them something like 10 to 15 years to start making money. They were called, I think, Backrub first before they were called Google. And everybody was dying during the dot-com boom, including them, but they managed to struggle and survive. Or another overnight success like Airbnb had years and years of not making any money, and they actually had to, during the McCain and Obama presidential race, they made gigantic cereal boxes with the names of the 2 candidates, and were out in the streets selling those to try to make enough money to make payroll. It doesn't, when you see these companies and you think of them as this overnight success or this giant multinational organization, they've all been through the same pain that we go through on a daily basis.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that even those best companies, the most well-known, they struggled and they had to go through many problems and issues that entrepreneurs usually go through, right?
Right. And it doesn't even end when you talk about a successful entrepreneur. It doesn't even end when you get to the success stage, because success is always fleeting if you're measuring it on corporate wealth and growth. It's always fleeting, and you always have to pivot. You always have to look behind you and see what the competitors are doing. or in front of you in some cases, and try to stay in the game and try to stay relevant. It's never you reach the mountaintop and you can celebrate. There's another mountain to climb right after that one.
Yeah. So it can be a little bit discouraging for those who want to start who want to start the business. Yesterday, I was reading a book about New York startup ecosystem called Tech and the City, and it is there are a lot of interesting examples, and basically they say that entrepreneur is someone who is willing to risk everything, and even if he will not make any money in the end. And but I think that most of the people who want to start their businesses, and most of our listeners who are running their businesses and planning to start their businesses, they are thinking about financial success as well, because this is a big part of being an entrepreneur, being independent in realizing your ideas, but also being independent in being independent financially as well. So it's how can you motivate our listeners a little bit in this direction?
I'll tell them this: forget about financial success, because it will come to you if you instead focus on your passion, your purpose, doing something that you really love doing, getting up and putting your feet on the ground next to the bed and smiling because you're having the life you want to have. When you do all those things, when you lead with purpose, the evidence is pretty clear that purpose-driven entrepreneurs and purpose-driven companies make more money, have greater margins, have more loyal customers, have faster growth, and that money will come to you if you focus on getting up in the morning and doing the right thing and doing what you're passionate about. That financial reward will chase you. And even better than that, if you continue doing what you're passionate about, you're going to continue working really hard at it. So you'll be aware of the changes in the industry that you're in, because you're so passionate about what you're doing. You'll make the pivots, the changes, the starts and stops that are necessary to stay ahead of the game. And again, that money flows as a result of what you're doing, not because that's what you're seeking in the first place.
Yeah, so I think that there are two opinions out there. One is that you actually have to follow your dream and follow your passion, but then some people are saying that don't follow your passion, because in the end you will not do I don't know, if you're passionate about making pizza, for example, you'll not make it all the time. You'll do accounting, you'll do sales, and so on, marketing. So do you think that it is actually so important to so that your business is your passion?
I believe it is, and I believe it's important for this reason. As far as I know, I think we only have one life. And if you can find a way, and not everybody can, mind you, okay? But if you can find a way to combine what you're passionate about with the business that you have, you're going to have a much happier life. And I can tell you, I'm 72, and I promised my kids I'd retire by the time I'm 90. And I've been passionate about everything I do. And every aspect of my life right now, I do it like I'm 30 still, from working out to running to the hours I spend on my work. And I do it because I'm doing something that I love doing. As hard as it is, I'm loving what I'm doing. And so I'm more and more successful because my focus is on the passion rather than the money. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. If you are passionate about pizza, you do have the accounting, you do have all those other things. But if you do it well enough, you're going to have other people do those things for you.
Great. Yeah. So I know that you're working with entrepreneurs and you're helping them to build their businesses. So what would you recommend to our listeners about starting the business? So if I have a great idea and I want to start working on this idea, so what are the first steps? What would you recommend to do in order to start?
Yeah, the first step is I'm going to tell you what not to do. And that is, don't go to your mother and find out if she thinks it's a good idea. Because she's not going to buy whatever it is you're building, and she's going to give you the best advice she can. And it's probably not going to be very good advice. You need to step back, and you need to, we all think we have great ideas because our ideas are generated from things that are missing in our own lives for the most part, right? I see this gaping hole that I don't understand why there isn't this certain golden widget, and so I'm going to make this golden widget. You may be the only person in the world that wants that or needs it. In fact, the number one reason that new businesses fail in the US anyway, and it's probably true around the world, is somebody's created something that nobody wants. That's the number one failure in the United States. Number two is you don't have the capital. But number one is you made something that nobody wants. So my advice to any entrepreneur is to step back, do the research. What's the market size? What's the market growth? What's the market opportunity? Who are the competitors? What are they good at? What do they suck at? Who are the customers? Where are the one-star reviews for those competitors? And how do I make those one-star reviews my five-star reviews? And then go out and raise money before you go any further with all this market research you have, with your market strategy. Go raise the money that you're going to need to start doing the elemental things that you need to do in order to, a year later, have a business that you can turn the lights on for.
Yeah, the research in the beginning is really important. And on the next steps, when we already have this research, we have done the first steps. As you're working with entrepreneurs, what are the top challenges that you see that your clients tackle with?
Top challenges is we become pretty stubborn and pretty opinionated, and we want things, even our website, I want it this shade of purple. How many websites have you built? How many customer analysis exercises have you conducted? There's a science behind a lot of these things, and the thing that you need to leave at the doorway when you enter is your opinions. And you need to be open, and you need to accept as much knowledge as you can to be able to be ahead of the game and give yourself an unfair advantage. So get rid of your opinions and listen to the experts and let them help guide you to where you need to go. There's a reason that certain web pages get a lot more click-throughs than other ones. And it could be small nuances that you would never even think could make a difference, and they can make an enormous difference.
Yeah, so we should definitely listen to the experts. And I think that also in the beginning, at least, many entrepreneurs, especially those who follow their passion and who are doing what they love, they have some issues with sales. And do you think that there is that sales is something that we also need to learn from the very beginning? What do you recommend to your clients?
Yeah, you need to start thinking almost in the beginning, what is going to be my go-to-market strategy? And it's going to really be dependent on how much money you have and how much capital you have access to. It may be that you're selling t-shirts out of the trunk of your car, or computer parts out of your garage, like HP did when they started out. You have to, number one, figure out how much money do I have access to, and then what can I do? Because what I can do with that money is going to determine the growth that I'm going to have. So if you have a little bit of money, but you have an ability to go on Amazon, for example, and do online sales, and you think that you have something that's a real niche, well, go get an Amazon selling expert and take that capital and expect that your growth is going to be slow, and be okay with that, as long as today I sold a t-shirt, tomorrow I sold 10, a month from now I've sold 100. Be happy with your incremental growth, because that's going to give you the cash flow you're going to start needing to grow that further and further. But I think really understanding your go-to-market strategy as quickly as you can is very, very important.
Yeah. So when we have those challenges on the way, and maybe we didn't figure out the strategy and or we had certain plan, but we see that it is not working, or we have this stubbornness approach that you mentioned. So what do you usually recommend to your clients, how to kind of overcome those challenges in the best way possible?
You have to, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to understand that it's not a straight line. It's not a steady road. It's not something that you can predict how you're going to get from A to B. And you have to be willing to change. You have to be open to change. You have to really understand if things are not working out. It may very well be that you're just doing it the wrong way. And instead of pouring more money, more gasoline on that fire and having it all be burned away, look at other things you can be doing. Try to look at your competitors, for example. How are they making sales? Again, online sales is pretty easy because you can go on Amazon and there's these programs that'll tell you what all your competitors are doing to the penny on a monthly basis, and see how they're advertising and the differences that they have compared to what you're doing. There's always, the internet's an amazing thing. It's beautiful. It's actually, in my view, created a dumber society, because we have access to whatever we believe. We can find it in a nanosecond, and we don't ever have to explore beyond that. So it's the dumbing down of the world in a sense. But if you use it the right way, there's an incredible opportunity to gain knowledge and to see what's working and what's not working. Interview your customers, the ones that bought. Why did it take them a long time to buy? What was the problem with the way that you approach them? There's a wealth of knowledge out there. You got to go find it, and you got to be willing to change, to go chase that customer and finally find the right way to not only reach them, but turn them into passionate advocates of your brand rather than a one-time customer.
Yeah, interviewing customers is a great strategy. Sometimes we all also kind of don't like it a lot, especially if if the customer is not satisfied. We don't like to listen how bad we are and receive negative feedback. But it is so important, right, in order to be able to develop the product.
Yeah, a guy who's a friend of mine, Robert Richmond, he was one of the founders over at Zappos. They became the #1 shoe company in the world, online shoe company in the world, and he teaches corporate culture to all the biggest organizations. And he said at Zappos, and by the way, Zappos was voted #1 in customer service nationwide. He said at Zappos, the happiest days for them is when they had an upset customer. Because if you can address an upset customer and you can turn them around, on average, they're going to give you 2.5 times more lifetime value than somebody that's been happy with you all along. Because you took somebody that was really upset, you made them really happy, and they see how hard you work to doing the right thing. So don't bury your head in the sand. When you have a customer complaint, accept it as fact, even if you think it's blown away, or, oh, we don't do that, or they misunderstood. Accept it as fact, fix it, and use that as a springboard to have better relationships with all your customers.
Yeah, it is such a great case that you mentioned, Zappos. And what about financing? Do you think that, how do you observe working with your clients and in your own experience? Is it easy to get financing for a good idea, or do we need to, what do we need to do to actually raise money?
Well, it depends on how rich your uncle is, because when you have it at the idea stage, it's really hard. And something like 85% of entrepreneurs, the initial funding that they have is from themselves and from their friends and family. That's where you're going to go. It's very unlikely that, unless you're coming out of Uber or Facebook and you have a pedigree as a senior vice president there, it's very unlikely that you're going to get any sophisticated capital from private equity firms or venture capital. It's maybe an angel group, but they're pretty timid lately. So don't be afraid to go ask your friends. And this is back to research. This is why research is so important, because when you go ask your friends, go think about this. Oh, I got this great idea. Oh, well, what's the market size? I don't know. How are you going to make money? I don't know. How are you going to launch? I don't know. Right? If you have the answers to all those things, people are going to be a lot more likely to give you money. And you'd be shocked at how many friends and families will throw you $1,000 or $5,000 because they believe in you and because you came across as really, really knowledgeable. So the first 50 grand that you need, you're going to find it all around you. You may be drinking beer with it tonight. So pick up the tab. That's really where you're going to find that initial capital you need. After that, once you get an organization that's going and has some momentum, I have strategic relationships with a couple of the largest equity crowdfunding companies in the world, Start Engine and another WeFunder is the other one. Between the two of them, they have about 60-70% market share in equity-based crowdfunding. And if you have the right type of product or service, that is a good vehicle for you. If you have a product, you could also do things like product-based crowdfunding, the more traditional crowdfunding like Indiegogo, those type of things. That money is available on a regular basis because people are making small contributions and they're not worried about the macro environmental concerns that are taking place now around the world.
Yeah, and when we already get to the stage of pitching our idea, we have the investor in front of us, and we have limited amount of time to prove that our idea is worth investing in. So what do you recommend to how to pitch your ideas to investors?
The biggest thing that's missing from pitch decks nowadays, which is the biggest and maybe only question that an investor wants, is what's in it for me? It's really missing from our pitch decks, because we talk about the problem, the solution, why us, our management team, how much money that we're raising, what we're trying to do with that money, but we don't get granular with what's in it for me. And so if you can think about right from the very beginning that the guy that or woman that you're talking to, their eyes may be glazing over because they don't understand what the benefit they're going to get. And so make sure that that's part of your pitch deck and make sure that you address it really early in there. We have this big problem, and this is the scope of this problem. I need your help in solving the problem. This is what my solution is. And if you can contribute X number of dollars, I'm going to try to get you a 10-time return, a 20-time return. And this is how I plan on doing that. Now, if I'm hearing I have a potential of getting a 20 times return, I'm going to listen because that's what I want. And I know as an angel investor, for example, for every 10 investments I make, if I get 1 or 2 that make it, I'm going to be really lucky. And if you sound like you're that 1 or 2, I'm going to throw extra money at you. So understand your audience. And so many of us, when we're pitching, we try to avoid questions and we don't make enough eye contact to see where there's a concern. You can tell if you're losing somebody. You can tell if somebody doesn't believe you. You can tell if somebody has questions and they're not asking the questions. You need to be strong enough to stop your presentation and say, Mrs. Jones, I saw on my last slide here, you looked like you had some concerns. Let's talk about it. Let's talk through it. So it's human to human interaction. Think about it. You're going on a date and you want to have a second date. You're not going to do it if you're not paying attention to the person at the other end of the table.
Yeah, so we need to pay attention and we need to answer the question, what's in it for me? Do you recommend answering this question as soon as possible during the presentation or in the end of the presentation?
I actually, and I'm a contrarian in this regard, I end up trying to do it as soon as possible. And I don't want to make it like, hey, Joe, I'm going to make you 10 times on your money. I don't want to make it like that. Address the problem, address the severity of this problem, address how magnificent your solution is. And as part of your money need, this is our solution. This is what we're going to need to get it done. And I believe I can get you 10 times minimum on your investment. I'm going to show you later how I'm going to do that. So now you've got a teaser, right? You've seen these TV shows where have the best scene in there and you got to wait a damn half hour to get to what that scene was all about. If you can do the teaser in the very beginning, I'm going to show you how you're going to get 10 to 20 times on your money later in my presentation. Now you have their interest. They have to listen to the rest of it. And then you better deliver on that. Don't forget to talk about that part at the end.
Yeah, this is, I like this strategy. So you catch their interest in the very beginning. They're interested. I'm especially interested in this pitching element because I am a communication coach, as I mentioned before we recorded, we chatted a little bit, and very often I'm working also with, among others, I'm working with startups who are preparing their pitches, and I can see this tendency that people love speaking about their products. They love describing how it works, and it is so important to show the problem, to show the what's in it for me part. And right. And the sooner we mention it, the better, right?
Yeah, and you said you teach communication, but there's two aspects of communication, and the most important one that a lot of us don't practice well is the listening part. We're practicing our pitch, we're looking in the mirror, we're talking, we're making the right points, we're making sure we cover everything. You got to listen, because when you listen, then you're going to find out what this person is thinking. And only if you find that out are you going to have a chance to get them to open up their wallet and give you some of their money.
Yes, it is so important to listen and to pay attention to the reactions of people. Great. So to summarize what we discussed, I think that we went through many aspects of entrepreneurship, from starting and the idea to, selling your idea and getting financing. So what would you advise to the entrepreneurs out there? What to focus on? Because there are so many things, they might be overwhelmed, but what would you recommend to focus on?
We end up thinking in 10-year terms, but we want to accomplish everything in 1 year. And that doesn't ever happen. And so everything that you've seen of all these companies with their successes, all your dreams with all these big successes, you have to understand you need the vision, you need the mission, you need all those things, but you also need to understand you got these tasks that you need to do one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, and start making sure that when you go to bed at night, that you've gone a little bit further on this long journey that you're on. And as long as you can stay focused that way and take incremental pieces, then it doesn't become so overwhelming. If you're like, I want to rule the world, anything short of that is going to kind of suck. But if you have your 10-year plan of ruling the world, and it starts with waking up a little bit earlier so you can focus on working on your business model before you go to your day job, that's a step in the right direction. Be happy and celebrate those micro victories, and that's going to keep you going forward and keep you motivated to try to get to that finish line, which is really your start line.
Thank you, Fred, so much for this positive summary. So if our listeners want to contact you, want to reach out, where they can find you?
Okay. Well, anybody that wants to just drop me a line for any reason can just email me at fred@ideapros.com. I actually answer my emails. But on top of that, ideapros.com is a great place to go to learn about the company. We have a blog page on there that I'm really, really proud of. I had little to do with other than be the original speaker in there, but I had a really good crew, put it all together, index everything. Anything you want to know about being an entrepreneur, from raising money to how to market, to how to deal with engineering, manufacturing, customer issues, all those things, anything you can think of is in there, because I talk a lot. And it's all indexed. It makes it really, really easy. You can go in there, click on whatever subject, and there'll be 3 or 4 blogs on that subject. And there's a video component to it as well. So go there. There's also other programs that you can sign up for there, everything from purpose-driven entrepreneurship video courses to full partnership package working with us from cradle to grave. And you can also go to my Instagram page, which is official Fred Cary, Cary. I speak about personal development, purpose-driven entrepreneurship, always doing the right thing, shifting your mindset so that tomorrow it can be completely different than today because you look at it in a different way. So you can reach me in any of those ways.
Great. We will definitely put those links under our episode so that our listeners can immediately click the link and reach out to you. Thank you so much, Fred, for being on Ideas and Leaders and for all your wonderful insights.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.